Got a fun one for you here, my friends. Controversial. It's going to be very controversial. It's going to be a follow-up to the video I did yesterday where I cited John Bogle's article in the Wall Street Journal where he was concerned about three companies, Vanguard, BlackRock, and State Street, being able to control in essentially 10 years the entirety of the S&P 500, having voting powers. And my issue on that was, frankly, Vanguard starting to go down this road of climate change activism and whatnot. Who are these people at Vanguard who are running these things? And that scares me to death, because if they control the top 500 largest capitalization companies in the United States and they're having folks in their HR folks or whatever that are big climate change activists, that's frightening, frankly. And that does scare me. Bogle didn't say that scared him. He just said it's not a good idea to have so much power consolidated into three purportedly private companies. So I got a lot of, I don't want to say hate mail, a lot of people are angry at me, unsubscribed and all that because of my change or my thought on climate change. Josh, don't you care about the kids? Don't you care about, blah, blah, blah? Don't you care about the future generations? How could you not see, blah, blah, blah? All right, I'm not going to entertain the silliness of that. I have 4 kids. We'll leave that be as is. Secondly, as a life member of the National Rifle Association, we respect the environment. Inherently, we do, for sure. That's just a fact. So the idea that I doubt the climate change hysteria, that inherently means I'm anti-environment, is silly. It just is. And so what I want to share with you today is just a brief tutorial on how energy is used, how you as an individual are responsible for you as an individual, your consumption, all right? And then when it comes to CO2, so you got greenhouse gases, methane, cow farts, for instance, biogas, gas from biogas. You got this clutter in the land, all your compost that has a gas, methane, that's a greenhouse gas, and then CO2. The primary GHGs are methane and CO2. And so everyone up in arms about CO2, which I just still chuckle at to this day, because they say if you want your plants to grow, you should breathe on them. Well, because you're breathing in oxygen, breathing out CO2. Your plants like CO2. They need CO2. We have greenery across the world. The world get greener because CO2 is rising. There's no getting around that. Does that mean CO2 is rising is causing catastrophic climate change? Just no, it doesn't. I mean, we can debate that at some other point. We can say the hurricanes are, it's not. But anyway, we'll leave that for another thing. Today I want to just share with you this idea of what you can do if you are concerned about CO2, if you are concerned about greenhouse gases, if you are concerned about climate change, and heaven forbid global warming. All right, so I want to start with something here, and I'm going to show you, let me pull this up back here a little bit. So what do you see here? All right. Oh man, this thing is not light. What is this right here? That is a photovoltaic or solar panel, PV for short, photovoltaic solar panel. This right here is 100 watts at about 15% efficiency. All right. This is from Renogy, and I like it. It's pretty good. It can give you 100 watts at a 15% efficiency. We're gonna get into that here in just a second. All right, so let me look at, what do you think stores more energy? This little piece of coal or that huge thing? I think it weighs 8, I'm not sure how much it weighs, 8, 9 pounds or something like that. What stores more energy, this guy or that guy? If the answer is that guy because it's bigger, you're wrong. By far and away, there's no energy being stored there, my friends, none. What stores more energy? This piece of firewood or this solar panel? Well, there is no storage in a solar panel. It doesn't store anything. There's no energy being stored. Now, some of you may or may not know that, but just having this photovoltaic panel, and I'm going to explain what photovoltaic means here in just a second. Well, I guess I'll share it with now. What photovoltaic is simply taking the sun's energy and turning it into electricity. That's what photovoltaic is. Photovoltaic panels, we're going to say PV for short, or from now on, they don't store anything. That's the drawback about renewables. There's no storage there. Are these considered renewables? Coal? Firewood? Well, in current vernacular, this is not for some reason. This is. Firewood is renewable. And as you can see with the UK, what they're doing to increase their level of renewables is they don't have enough firewood in the United Kingdom. So they're literally importing firewood from old forests in North Carolina and Canada and putting them on ships and bringing them into the UK in order to increase their renewable energy production. And renewable in this case is biomass. And they're taking all banana peels, firewood, the whole thing. They're taking the gases from that and they're using that to convert to electricity. And not a very good use of biomass if we got to ship it from overseas, over the Atlantic Ocean. They're not being flown; they're being put on a ship. How does a ship get there? With batteries? No, a ship gets there with good old-fashioned fossil fuels. So, what's the point about that? The point isn't to say this is inherently bad or good. It is. It does not store electricity. What does store electricity is my marine deep cycle batteries. All right, so we got these marine deep cycle batteries that do store electricity. Off the top of my head, I can't remember how many amp hours this guy is. And I forgot. Oh boy, this thing is not like marine RV. It doesn't say right there. 24 DC, which you usually want a 27 or 29. I can't remember how many amp hours this guy is. 140. I forgot. Anyway, so we got to hook this guy to the battery in order to store electricity. The problem, of course, is at some point that battery, which is very, very heavy, and that costs about $100. I think I got that at Walmart, Costco. Can only store so much, and it does deplete its charge. So at some point, that I'll probably have it charged in probably 6 months. It will deplete its charge. It has to be recharged. So that's the first and foremost. This guy, all you got to do is take a match to it, and you got energy. Now remember, electricity is a subset of energy. That's all there is to it. So a photovoltaic panel is just a transmission of changing the sun's energy into electricity. All right, electricity is energy, but it starts with energy from the sun. That's what everything for the most part comes with. So we take the sun's energy, we convert it to heat, thermal. We convert it to electricity. We convert it to all kinds of different things. Biomass. We convert it to chlorophyll with plants. I mean, that's what they're doing. They're taking the sun's energy. A wonderful, wonderful thing for sure. All right. So we got this 100-watt panel. All right. Let me just point again. Now, that sucker is heavy. And that right there, if what we want to look at in terms of photovoltaic PV panels is how much do you get per meter squared. All right. So everything that comes with your crunching numbers on PV, any kind of solar, I mean, it could be thermal too. I mean, just remember, if it's thermal, it inherently is not solar. If it's solar, inherently is not, I mean, if it's PV, it's inherently not thermal. If it's thermal, it's inherently not PV. So you can't have two birds of the same stone here. You got to do one or the other. So if you're putting on your solar, if you're putting on rooftop, you're going to have to figure out, do you want it as an electricity generation or thermal? I mean, you can't serve two masters in that regard. So, can it be done? Sure, absolutely. All right, so I want to dive into a couple of things here. I think it'll be pretty important to understand. Let me get my pen. All right, so the sun gives us about 1375 watts per meter squared. All right, so the sun, what is landing on the earth is 1375 watts per meter squared. That's what we're getting from the sun, all right? Now, all kinds of different things when it comes to the sun's rays in terms of the blue, off the top of my head, I can't remember I'm drawing a blank what they're called, but the rays that are in the sun, the color and all that, all kinds of different ways. But that's what we get. 1375 is what we get from the sun that lands on the earth, 1375. So I'm going to share with you something because this is critically important to understand this. All right. But at surface in the noon tropics and clear skies, at surface at noon in the tropics of clear skies, 950 watts lands on the earth. All right, so at noon, 950 watts per meter squared. Now that guy I just showed you, that PV panel is not a meter. That's less than a meter. So a meter square is bigger by about a third of that. All right. The maximum conceivable 24 average at the equator with no clouds at equinoxes is 300 watts per meter squared. The maximum conceivable solar intensity, 24-hour average. All right, so we're getting at the Earth's surface at noon in the tropics with clear skies. So the sun gives us 1375 at the surface. What lands on the Earth's surface at noon in the tropics and clear skies, we're getting 950 watts per meter squared. The maximum conceivable 24-hour average at the equator with no clouds at the equinoxes is 300 watts per meter squared. That's the maximum conceivable average. And that, why do I say average? Because the sun goes down, all right? There's no place that gets 24 hours of sun. In Albuquerque, New Mexico, the yearly average, this is in Albuquerque, is 240 watts per meter square. In Hartford, Connecticut, is 160 watts per meter square. So on any essentially given day, you can expect every square meter will get 160 watts in Hartford, Connecticut. The average in the 48 states is 200. All right. That's the average in the 48 states is 200 watts per meter square. Here in Atlanta is about 180. I think in LA is 220 or something like that. Yeah, I think LA is 220. I think in Portsmouth, New Hampshire is like 160. That's the average in the U.S., 200 watts per meter square. All right, so why does this have to do with anything? Well, the facts are the solar panel can only convert so much electricity of the sun's energy into electricity based on what it collects. So if the average in the U.S., and we're just going to use that for example, is 200, it can't convert 300 watts to electricity. It can't because it's only getting 200. So you got this panel right there, and only 200 watts is being collected on it. That's it. 200 watts. That's the max it can get on average. Now, on any given moment, the max you can get is 950 in the equinox at noon at a clear sunny day in the equator. But on the average U.S., in Atlanta, Georgia, the max or the average you're going to get through a 24-hour cycle is 200. That's it. That's it. Because that's how much the sun will shine on this panel of watts a meter squared. There's no more. It cannot be any more. This is the way it's been. 1,375 watts per meter square. I think it's 1,373 to be precise. Since the dawn of mankind, since the dawn of the world, the sun has shown 1,375 watts per meter square. The sun, since the dawn of the world, has shown 950 watts per meter squared at noon on a clear day in the equator. In Albuquerque, New Mexico, it's 240. In Hartford, Connecticut, is 160. On average, in the U.S., is 200. All right, so what does this have to do with anything? Well, it has a lot to do with stuff. And I'm going to share with you why that is. Oh, you might be wondering what book I was reading that out of. I'll share with you in just a second. I got a ton of books just like this, my friends, up in my library. This is by my man, Howard Hayden, A Primer on Renewable Energy. It's a wonderful book. You should read it. You should go to his website at theenergyadvocate.com, and you just, without question, it's a wonderful book. I've talked about his newsletter before, $45 a year for 12 issues of actually a written newsletter he sends to you. Howard does, and that's where that book's from. I got, I don't know, probably 25 books up there at least on energy, from hydro to hydrogen to solar to everything in between. All right, so we got 200s on average. This guy's a 100-watt PV panel, 100 watt. All right, so we have 200 on average, and now we're going to stop with that guy right there. So if we have 200 on average, excuse me. All right. So that would tell you, if you have 200 on average, that means for every square meter, you should be able to get 200 watts of the sun's energy to be able to put to use via a PV panel, solar panel, and turn it to electricity, right? No, you can't do that. So, there's something called efficiency, which is why solar thermal is so much more efficient than solar PV, but I think solar thermal is like 80% efficient. Solar PV on a good day is about 20% efficient. That's on a good day. I think this guy, it's 15. Now they have done in a lab at MIT, I think they got as high as 35% efficient. That's not coming to the market anytime soon. I'm just telling you right now. People say, well, we're going to get more and more efficiency. No, you're just not. You're just not. I mean, at the end of the day in a lab, can you get to 35%? Yes. Will you be able to put that lab result on your rooftop? No. All right, so we have 20% efficiency. All right, so that means for every 24 hours, on average, we get 200 watts per meter square. That's it, 200 watts per meter square. On average, that's what I'm saying. We have 20% efficiency, which means we have, I need my calculator, what's that, 40 watts? Is that what it is? 200 times 0.2, 40 watts. So that means on any given second, we got 40 watts that we can convert to electricity. All All right, so 40 watts that can be converted to electricity. That's it. And you times that by 24, because that's the many hours in the day. And 40 times 24 times 24 is 960 watt hours a day. 960 watt hour. We'll just say 1 kilowatt a day. All right, so if you have a 200 watt panel, or if you have a solar panel, as a full 1 meter square or a square meter, is at 20% efficiency, and you live in the average place in the United States, which gives you on average, again, over a course of a 24-hour time, so sometimes they'll give you 500, sometimes they'll give you nothing, sometimes they'll give you 200, whatever. It gives you on average in a 24-day, 200 watts meter squared, and it's a 20% efficient panel, it's going to give you 40 watts. That's the end of the story, my friends. It's only going to give you the amount of watts that the sun shines times a certain amount of efficiency. There's no other way around that. It can't do more. It can't do more. I mean, it could do less. It could be less efficient, but in this case, it cannot be more than 20% efficient. It cannot give you more than 200 watts per meter squared, because that's the physical nature of the sun, what the sun gives to us on average in the course of a 24-hour time, going back literally to the dawn of mankind. So if you have, we'll just say 1 kilowatt hour a day. Let me get a different color. And that should be cap. You always want to capitalize your watts because it's named for Mr. Watt, who is just a wonderful, wonderful human being. Kilowatt hours a day. All right, so you're getting 1 kilowatt hour a day per every square meter of your solar panels. All right. Now, here's the thing that ticks me off. All these people saying, and this is what it ticks me off, because it's so just, it's not some Josh right-wing guy saying, oh, you should do this. It's anyone who knows anything about renewable energy. And this is the book you should get, David McKay. You can get it for free. It's a PDF version. This guy has since passed. What a wonderful human being. But he calls it Sustainable Energy Without the Hot Air. And he's died early, actually. He lives in the UK, he did. But anybody who can pay attention will realize that 1 kilowatt hour a day off a full square meter of a solar photovoltaic panel is not going to get the job done. It's just not. I mean, that is 1 kilowatt hour a day is. I mean, I don't know. You could have. I can't even describe how much energy or electricity that you need. All right, so let me give you an example. My family, and this is just electricity. We're not even talking about natural gas or fossil fuels or non-renewables. My family of 6, we use about, I think I said 55 kilowatt hours a day in this house, 55. So 1 photovoltaic panel right there, and that's not even going to give me that right there, because don't forget, this is not full meter square. That's about 2/3 of a full meter square. We need, just say it was, we need 55 of these guys. All right, so let me show you 55 of those guys to give us the equivalent electricity use that we get in this example here. 55 of those guys. They got to be facing the south, by the way. All right, so I forgot which side the south is. All got to be facing the south. All right, all got to be 20% efficient, which isn't cheap. Can it be done? Yes. I interviewed my man Sean Mills up at hackmysolar.com in Tennessee. He's doing it not just with solar, though. He's also doing it with natural gas and propane and thermal and whatnot. But he's doing it. More power to him. I think he's got a wife and 2 daughters, I think. So he's got 3 girls in his house with their dry cleaning and whatnot. You know, washing the clothes all the time. Men, we just throw on clothes day after day. We don't care. But, you know, women, they got to get their hair dry clean. They use a lot of electricity relative to what men do. And he's doing it, but he's not just using solar. He's using other things, too, because he wants to eliminate his electrical bill, his utility bill, generally speaking. More power to him. He'll tell you the pros and cons of it. You can listen to my podcast. If I can find it, I'll put it on the link, the show note. But here's my man, David McKay, who only takes bikes. He doesn't, he's just, well, it did. All right, so I want to point out real quick, getting 3 kilowatt hours a day per person from solar photovoltaics requires 6 meters squared of 20% efficient panels. Well, look at that. 6, what we talk about. We got, what's this? We got 1 meter square of 20% efficient panels. That gives us 1 kilowatt hour a day. Oh, look at that. And he's saying it takes 6 meters square of 20% efficient panels to get 3 kilowatt hours a day per person. That's per person. 3 kilowatt hours a day per person. Now I'm saying you can get 1 kilowatt hour a day with just a 200 panel at 20% efficiency in Atlanta. And he's saying to get 3, you need double the space. You need 6 meters square. Now, if you think David McKay is some right winger funded by Heartland Institute or Big Oil, you're wrong. I do want to point out one thing though, and this is where I get ticked off. If you are truly interested in reducing climate change and your concern is man-made AGW, which is man-made climate change, and you think that CO2 is the biggest culprit there is, you have one option. And I'll just read what David McKay says. He has an individual action plan. Stop flying. Stop flying. And let me give an example. For me to fly from Atlanta to London, you know how much that take over the course of a year in terms of my average electric utilage or my average usage? 33 kilowatt hours a day for the entire year for that one round trip flight. So my entire family uses 55 kilowatt hours a day in this home right now, my entire family. If I flew one time from Atlanta to London, I'd be using almost more than half of that in that one flight, back and forth, the round trip, for the entire year. That is how CO2 is such a big issue when it comes to flying. Has nothing to do with whether or not you're using fossil fuels, whether or not you're using natural gas, whether or not you're using petroleum, biomass. It has to do with your consumption. And that's my argument. If you truly believe that CO2 is the evil, it's going to eat us all alive, we're all going to burn at the stake, you simply cannot fly. And that's David McKay right there. He got 3 action plans. Put on a woolly jumper and turn down your heating thermostat to 15 or 17 degrees Celsius. Put individual thermostats on all radiators. Make sure the heating's off when no one's home, and do the same at work. Read all your meters, gas, electricity, water every week, and identify easy changes to reduce consumption. Switching things off. Compare competitively with a friend. Read the meters at your place of work too, creating a perpetual live energy audit. Both those things right there could potentially save you combined 24 kilowatt hours per day. Just doing those 2 things. Reducing your heating, and then flipping off your lights when you're not in there, and then on top of that, reading all your meters, make sure you're not wasting anything. All right, both I could say 24. Keep using old gadgets, computers. Don't replace them early. All right, that'll save you 4 kilowatt hours a day. Drive less, drive more slowly, drive more gently, carpool, use electric car, join a car club, cycle, walk, use trains or buses. So essentially getting rid of your ICE, your internal combustion engine, would save you 20 kilowatt hours a day. Change lights to fluorescent or LEDs. That'll save you 4 kilowatt hours a day. I've done videos on that. Don't buy clutter. Avoid packaging. And that's where I think a lot of people got really upset with me when I said, packaging. Popular Mechanics talked about packaging. Well, that would be a big one. I mean, 20 kilowatt hours a day. So remember, these are the big ones that my man, Professor David McKay talks about. Eat vegetarian. 6 days out of the week would save 10 kilowatt hours a day. And I just simply won't do that. But don't buy clutter, avoid packaging, change lights to LEDs, keep using old gadgets, don't switch out. All that would save a good amount of electricity, energy. But the problem is, number one, by far is flying. And that is my issue. If you are going to fly, I don't care if it's from here to Miami, but if you are going to get on an airplane, my friends, you are not taking seriously your concern with climate change. That is just all there is to it. And the other thing he talks about is those little ski-doos you take in the water, go on your lakes, those ski-doos. Those are huge gas components for sure. If you are going to fly, you inherently have, I hate to, this is going to make you mad. You've neglected you got to turn in your membership card of protecting the environment. That's what it is. And so do I fault you for flying? No. But I fault you for flying if you think greenhouse gases are going to kill us all and yet you're getting on an airplane. You can't do it. And don't tell me like Bernie Sanders' campaign did where they're doing carbon credits. You're still putting the CO2 in the atmosphere. So you might be buying it from somebody else, but it's still going in the atmosphere. And according to the IPCC of 2000, I can't remember, one of the UN things, I think it's 2007 IPCC, they called for a reduction in CO2 to 85% below the 1990 numbers or something like that. It was something absurd. So for Bernie Sanders' campaign, and it could be Newt Gingrich, I don't care, it's hypocrites for them to say we're going to reduce, we can fly all over the country in our private jets to campaign because we're buying carbon credits. That doesn't offset the fact that your own IPCC or whatever it was, I think it was the IPCC of 2007, that they wanted to get below CO2 levels of emissions 85% below that from 1990 levels. That's 30 years ago. So yes, you may or may not be reducing, you might be buying carbon offsets, but you haven't reduced anything, and you haven't reduced it to according to what you think we should, which is 85% lower than what it was in 1990. And that's 30 years ago. How much more are we consuming now? So I'm going to give you a link to this book. I mean, you can buy it in the PDF. I just think, man, it is worth your time to buy. It's so much stuff in here for sure. 1 ton of coal equals 8,000 kilowatt hours of chemical energy. 37% efficiency to electricity is coal. So this right here, and this is actually charcoal, but if it were a piece of coal, it's 37% efficiency to electricity. Again, solar photovoltaic is about, on a good day, 20% for sure. And I guess solar thermal, I think it's 80%. I got that in my head. Just tons of wonderful stuff. 5% natural gas leak equals 40% boost in CO2 released at power stations because of methane. And I just see my notes there. I don't know what that, I mean, okay, either way. Mass of fossil fuels by average Brit in 2006 equals 16 kilograms a day per person equals 28 pints of milk extracted from ground. Leads to 30 kilograms waste of CO2 a day. There's just so much stuff in here. I just took so many notes because it's just a wonderful, wonderful thing. All right, so anyway, right here. Any plane, whatever size, has to expend an energy of about 4.4 kilowatt hours per ton kilometer on keeping up and keeping moving. Planes have already been fantastically optimized, and there's no prospect of significant improvements in plane efficiency. The sad truth is that ocean liners use more energy per passenger than jumbo jets. The QE2, Queen Elizabeth II, uses 4 times as much energy per passenger as Queen Elizabeth II uses 4 times as much energy per passenger as a jumbo jet. Okay, it's a luxury vessel. Can we do better with the slower tourist class liners? No, you can't. The energy consumption, if they carried a full load of 893 passengers, was 103 kilowatt hours. At a typical 85% occupancy, the energy consumption was 121 kilowatt hours, more than twice that of a jumbo jet. That's with full capacity. The QE2, Queen Elizabeth II Luxury, is about 3,000 kilowatt hours per day per passenger. So, moral of the story. If you're taking a boat, a cruise, or if you're flying an airplane to get to said cruise, or if you're flying an airplane because you're good at conduct business, and you're sitting there saying the world is falling apart because of global warming or climate change, you have some thinking to do. And I know it's offensive. I get it. Sucks, right? But that's the physics. That's the physical nature of how stuff works. And if you think you can replace that by this right here, think again, my friends. You simply cannot. There's no way that you're going to get enough photovoltaic panels to power things like this. It's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen. On top of that, photovoltaic panels do not store electricity. You need batteries to store electricity. This battery right here is still the same technology, lead acid battery, which is cheaper, which we've been using for 100 years. Will there be a lithium battery that can store a charge for days and years? And I hope so. But where is it? It's not there. Will it ever be there? I don't know. But all I do know is, as we sit here today, I don't care what Vanguard advocates. I care about what you do personally. Vanguard can advocate all day long, but that doesn't resolve you from your ability or your what's the word I'm looking for? Your need to be more responsive for your own consumption. And that's the thing that drives me crazy. It's always like this. When it comes down to it, what are you doing for consumption? Not using plastic straws. What do you do? You're getting on an airplane. You're driving your car. It's an ICE. Even if you got electric, and look, my next car is going to be electric. I'm telling you right now. It's got to get the gas from the power from someplace. It's going to get it most likely from a coal or natural gas power plant. So what are you doing? And that's what annoys me. All these people are like, Josh, you don't respect the environment or you don't care for the kids. And I'm just, no. I live in the West. In the West, we consume. And I want those poor kids in India and Bangladesh and Sri Lanka to be able to have the same level of affluence that we have too. Because right now they die from lung cancer because they're using wood in an open fireplace in their home and they're all getting lung cancer. That's not good. I'd much rather have burned natural gas than that. And you should too. And you can read Paul Ehrlich, who's a population bomb guy. Man, I don't think I have it. If you read Paul Ehrlich, the population bomb guy, he says the same thing. He is not some right-wing Breitbart Trumpster. It's Paul Ehrlich. He is saying about how wind, hydro. In fact, I think my man McKay here talked about hydro in here too. It's pretty interesting actually, because he said with hydro, yeah, I don't think I'll be able to find it. There's just not enough hydro. I can't remember. He talks about hydro in here. I can't find it off the top of my head. But you got Paul Ehrlich, the population bomb guy, the crazy guy, who is saying we're going to force sterilization, forced abortions on people because the world was getting too populated. This is back in 1970. Even he in 1991 was saying the idea that solar and hydropower is going to change anything, it's just not going to happen. What's the guy's name? He actually did an interview. Oh, I'm drawing a blank. The guy who wrote Gaia, the Gaia book. But he says the same thing. He's all nuclear. He said we got to go nuclear. That's all there's to it. He is worried about. He says global warming's here. It's gonna. He's worried about it. Man, I'm drawing a blank that dude's name. He wrote the book something about Gaia in 2007. Anyway, he says we better start using nuclear a whole lot more because we can't keep going what we're going. CO2 is going to eat us. It's going to kill us. It's going to kill us. It's going to kill us. And yet we're not reducing our consumption. It's not going to happen until we have mass reductions in consumption. We better find an alternative. An alternative is not solar photovoltaic. It's not hydro. It's not biomass. Wind, heaven forbid. Please don't even go there. All right, well, I hope this helps. It's a brief tutorial. I'm sure I'll lose others. That's fine. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm going to tell you what I see. You don't have to believe it. I'm going to tell you I don't like managed money. I'm going to tell you you should buy life insurance. Whatever. You just got to do what you got to do. I'm comfortable with that. But I will not sit here and say, maybe you're right. Maybe I do not like my kids or do not like their future. And at the same time, as I sit there and get on an airplane. You can't have both. You can't. All right. As always, you like what you see, subscribe down below and let me know what you think. Thanks, guys.